How's it going, everybody? Doug Lane, Fast Lane Car Care. Hey, today I'm going to draw a little picture for you. It's Arts and Crafts Day. I'm going to explain how your paint job is laid out on your car, what how scratches play into that, and then how to fix them. So a lot of people think that if you have a red car, you just have, red paint. This is not going to be super artistic. All right, so in reality, that's not the only thing on your car. So you've got a layer of primer typically, and I'm drawing these kind of thicker, and you'll see why in a minute. And then let's just say this is your metal, your plastic, whatever, if it's a bumper, mirror, door. This is your metal, this is your primer coat, this is your color coat. Now on top of that, we have a clear coat. Obviously, if I draw you something clear, you're not going to be able to see it, so we're going to use black. Okay, so now, your clear coat is about the thickness of a Post-it note, maybe a little bit deeper. It's going to vary between make, model, manufacturers, and quite frankly, it's going to matter. If you had two of the same car produced on a different day, you could measure the same spot, you would probably get a different paint thickness number. So they have tools you can measure paint thickness in, but we have no real way of knowing how thick the clear coat is unless it's been sprayed and that painter is somehow like super good at knowing exactly how much volume he sprayed. So your paint thickness is going to measure down to the metal. So if it's going to say however many microns, let's just say it's 0.5 microns. 0.5 microns. That's from here to here. Right? So from your metal on up to the top of the clear coat is that thickness. Well, this doesn't necessarily matter to us when we're talking about polishing. It's all about this right here, that layer. Okay, so what happens when you get a scratch? You've got a scratch there, you've got random isolated deeper scratches, rids, they're commonly called, and they may go almost all the way down to the color coat, and then say somebody keys your car, they bump into it, scrape it with something, your kid rides their bike too close and falls, and whatever, life happens, right? And it goes all the way down to the color. Now, typically, if you get a rock chip, something like that, you're going to get all the way down to the metal. So how do we fix these? If it's something like this, if it's like an actual, like say you got into a wreck, like a minor fender bender or something like that, the only way to get it truly perfect is to just sand it all down and repaint it, or get a new bumper, or new fender, whatever it is, respray it. But for these here, these deep but not super deep scratches, this is where your touch-up paint comes into. If it's a rock chip, if it's just a rock chip, touch-up paint works really well. And then these scratches here are more of what we can polish out or buff out, as it's commonly called. So how polishing works is you're polishing your compound and polish. So let's break that down real quick. Compound is more of an aggressive, think of it like sandpaper in a liquid form. It's going to be the more aggressive. You're gonna cut down a lot of material, and then where you're going to have your polish, it's going to be less abrasive, less aggressive, and it's going to give you more shine. It's going to cut out these compounded sanding marks, and it's going to leave you with a more glossy finish. So if you were, say, have a scratch like this and you just compounded that area of that car, the finish of the paint would look really hazy or cloudy, because at a microscopic level, you would have, instead of this one big scratch, you would have a more refined scratch pattern, as it's called. So then your next step would be, if you're, depending on what products you're using, I don't want to get too technical about it, 1, 2, or 3-step process. You're gonna, you're gonna have an aggressive cut, then you're gonna have a finer cut, and then finally a finishing polish. Some people get really crazy and do 5 or 6 step 5 or 6 step paint correction deals. I really like one step with a high quality product, and I'll probably talk about that on another video, and actually in fact I've talked about it in probably 3 or 4. So anyway, let's get back to this now that you have a crash course on how polishing actually works. So we're not talking about filling it in with paint correction, we're going to buff it out, right? So what we're actually going to do is we're removing a very fine layer of paint each time we polish. Each pass of the polisher is going to remove a fine amount of clear coat. So this is why you want to pay someone that knows what they're doing rather than just going to get the tools and doing it yourself. I mean, if you're a hands-on kind of person, a do-it-yourself kind of person, and you've got an old car and you want to learn on it, that's fine, whatever. So, like I said, we're sanding that away so the scratches are less and less noticeable. Because obviously, you know, you've got this fine scratch here, you've removed the clear coat enough so that it's not as noticeable. What happens if you you've polished too much, you keep your polisher in one area too long, you generate too much heat, and now you've burnt through your clear coat and you're down into your color coat. Well, if you've made it to this step, congratulations, it's never going to look right unless you repaint it. So this is why I do not recommend just going out to buy the stuff to do it, because even if you do have the money to buy the compound, the polishes, whatever products you're going to use, your pads, you're going to need a couple of those, usually of different hardnesses, and then obviously your machine. You can very quickly wrap up $500 in a polisher and do $1,000 worth of damage really easily. So, you know, it definitely makes sense to hire someone that knows what they're doing already, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, I don't care. I just want to educate you guys so you know the difference between paint correction and, you know, just buffing, which a lot of people call buffing, is just putting wax on with a sealant, or wax on with a machine, or a sealant with a machine. So yeah, like I said, if you've made it this far, you pretty much have to either live with it, and it's going to look different. It would bother me for sure. Most people, I think that it would, because it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. Or you're gonna have to go to the body shop, have that specific panel repainted. So now let's talk about what most people call buffing or polishing, and what exactly that means. Okay, so now we've got our clear coat, and we're gonna have some real fine scratches, maybe some deeper scratches like I've stated. So what they're going to do typically is they're going to use a liquid wax or a liquid sealant, and a sealant is just, wax is naturally based from a carnauba tree, and then they've found ways since, you know, the 60s and 70s to put different chemicals in it to, you know, make it do different things, whether it's for durability, for gloss enhancement, whatever. But a sealant is all man-made, it is completely synthetic, and because of that you get a lot more durability, and, you know, there's 1,000 different products in each category that serve 1,000 different purposes, and we'll talk probably more about that on another video. So what they're going to do is they're going to come by with their liquid sealant, liquid wax, or you could use a paste wax if you're doing it by hand. Most people don't really do that because it's very time consuming. From a business owner standpoint, it's not profitable. So the wax is going to start to fill in some of these small scratches and abrasions, and it's going to make them look less noticeable. Not nearly to the degree that polishing will. And the downside to this is that you're very limited to the durability of whatever product you've used. Say it's rated for 6 months, and, you know, month 6 comes up and that stuff has now broken down, you're back to square one basically, because that wax or that sealant is now gone. So there's pros and cons to both. So the pro to waxing versus, you know, true paint correction is you can just always add more. In fact, if you really wanted to, if you're doing this for yourself and you got all the time in the world, you could just keep layering wax or sealant, whichever. You do a layer, and pretty much every single one of them is going to say, if you want to layer it, wait 15 minutes, wait 20 minutes, wait, however long, come back after that amount of time, lay down another coat, let it cure, buff off the excess, and you just keep repeating that. I know some people that have had 20 coats of wax on their car at a time. That's not for me. But you could keep doing that if you wanted to. So the con obviously is durability. You're not truly removing any imperfections. You're basically just like putting makeup on, So the pro to actual paint correction is that you're actually removing those defects. The cons are that it's more expensive. Once you've removed clear coat from, say you polish it, and then in 6 months you've started to get more scratches, and these are microscopic abrasions. Typically they're caused from going through a car wash with brushes or improperly washing your car on your own. Right, so now you've got to polish it again if you want it to, look awesome again. Well, eventually you're going to run out of clear coat and you're going to be into your paint, your color coat. So that's one of the cons. You can only do it so many times. It's more and more risky every time you do it. But it looks better, and for deeper scratches, it's the way to go. So that's been your wonderful crash course in how paint correction works, polishes, waxes, and yeah, I've got the artistic ability of a 5-year-old, so I'll see you guys on the next one.